It's the Real News Network. I'm Sharmini Pearce coming to you from Baltimore. The New York Times and CNN published two major reports on Tuesday alleging that Trump campaign officials had extensive contacts with individuals in the Russian government during the 2016 presidential campaign. The reports were based on interviews with four unnamed intelligence officials. Even Republicans are now calling for a congressional investigation into the Trump campaign's connections to the Russian government. For example, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said Tuesday that it was highly likely that the events leading to General Flynn's resignation from the National Security Council would be added to the broader probe into Russian meddling in the U.S. elections. Meanwhile, President Trump blasted the media for reporting the leaks during a press conference on Wednesday. Let's have a look.
Michael Flynn, General Flynn, is a wonderful man. I think he's been treated very, very unfairly by the media, as I call it, the fake media in many cases. And I think it's really a sad thing that he was treated so badly. I think in addition to that, from intelligence, papers are being leaked, things are being leaked. It's criminal action, criminal act. And it's been going on for a long time, before me, but now it's really going on. And people are trying to cover up for a terrible loss that the Democrats had under Hillary Clinton.
Joining us now to analyze these latest developments with Trump-Russian connection is Colleen Rowley. Colleen is a former FBI special agent and division counsel. In 2002, she was named the Time Magazine's Persons of the Year for having exposed some of FBI's pre-9/11 failures. Thanks for joining us again here at The Real News, Colleen.
Yes, thanks for having me.
So, Colleen, what do you make of these latest developments about the Trump camp and communication with the Russians?
Well, Glenn Greenwald has written an article that these leaks were illegal, so Trump is right about that. They are technically illegal. And Greenwald also said that the leaks are justified. I'm less in agreement with that second part of his title there, and I'll tell you why. But let's go back to why they're illegal. Obviously, with interceptions, electronic interceptions of a foreign country, that actually violates a statute that carries a 10-year penalty. So it's a serious crime for these four individuals to have relayed that to the media. And in fact, the media may well have known this even before the papers have printed it, published it. Oftentimes they learn these things. Ignatius, who writes for the New York Times, the CIA has a direct pipeline into him. So it would not be surprising if he already knew this ahead of time. Now, the question is, are these leaks justified? And, you know, whistleblowing and leaks are different things. Whistleblowing, I distinguish that as based on a good motivation to inform the public of an illegal act on the part of people in power, the government or the people in power. Leaking could be different, could be a different motivation. It could be to get even. Flynn was not well liked, obviously, by many people in the intelligence community. He was fired, in fact, when Trump hired him. So they had an axe out for him. And on top of that, Trump has made no friends in the mainstream media. He's called them fake news. He's called CNN many names, etc. And also, he has maligned the intelligence community. And he's been warned that he would probably have to pay the price for that. So, in other words, I think they are gunning. It seems very one-sided, the coverage. And, you know, for 3 weeks now, we've seen news reports night after night about how, you know, Trump has done this or that. Especially, I think this is worrisome. A lot of the criticism of Trump, of course, is valid. But I think what's really should be of concern to many people is the warmongering that's embedded in this with ginning up a confrontation of Russia. And this goes back to the fall when the allegations came out of Russian hacking, which I think were greatly exaggerated, and all the way to now where they have built this conversation. You know, we need to see the conversation that actually occurred. We need to actually see the words to this because, you know, by the media accounts, it's as if Flynn is in collaboration with Putin, etc., which I don't think is the case. And there's the the other side to this is that he was going to be in position advising Trump in just a few weeks, and it's very normal for Flynn to carry on conversations with heads of foreign governments. It would not be abnormal. Besides having those conversations with the Russian ambassador, guess who else Flynn had conversations with? He had conversations with Israeli intelligence folks in order to set up the meetings that just happened today between Netanyahu and Trump. There may be other countries as well. I would imagine he probably had many of these conversations, and yet they are signaling out the conversations he had with the Russian ambassador, which I think is very should be a worry to many, many Americans who do not want to see this launching or ginning up of a new war with Russia. And I think that that's one of the reasons why, if they're going to go this far in the media, we really now should see the actual conversations so that we don't have any kind of exaggeration going on.
Speaking of that, now these unnamed intelligence officials make accusations about the conversations between Trump camp and the Russians, but they don't reveal any of the details as to what kind of conversations actually took place. And having the experience you have, it could have been about upcoming meetings, upcoming phone calls, upcoming visits, etc. And if you're saying that that's the norm for an election campaign to be preemptive about that kind of stuff, why is the intelligence officers making a big deal out of it, at the same time revealing nothing?
Well, we're at this pivotal point between administrations where you had the Obama administration in its last month, and they did a lot of things in that last month, which actually kind of set the, what's the word? They kind of wrong-footed things that Trump had indicated he would do. One is this détente with Russia. And so there were other things that Obama did. Of course, troops were placed in Poland and in Norway, right on Russia's borders. The Ukrainians, there was an attack, or there was more warfare going on in Ukraine between the Russian loyalists and the Kiev government people. Who knows if that wasn't, a signal from Washington, start more fighting in Ukraine. Who knows? Syria, the same type of things were going on. There's been a lot of leaks coming, not so much leaks, but information about to try to get us back in the war on Syria, where we are on the side of the rebels. So I think there's been a lot of things going on, and there's this other problem, is that who's actually in power in Washington, D.C.? Is it really the executive branch or the legislative branch, or is it these intelligence agencies that oftentimes are very powerful, especially when they can use secrecy and they can now obviously leak with impunity.
All right.
I think it's important to understand the difference between whistleblowing and leaking. And I think it's just all gets meshed together. And there's one even worse thing, which is planting false information, and that's the very worst category. But the difference between whistleblowing are people that are not in authority, they do not have a green light from anybody in authority, and they see an illegal act, and they decide to tell the public about it. And of course, this is what is justified and good. Leaking is something in between. Leaking is what actually Deep Throat did. He wasn't motivated for the public good necessarily with Nixon. He wanted to get back at J. Edgar Hoover, and he had some other motivations. He was actually part of the COINTELPRO himself, Deep Throat, Mark Felt. He was part of it. And so leaking is different. This is when people might be motivated for different partisan reasons. They might be wanting to influence public opinion. Certainly, they might be, in this case, wanting to take down Trump and take down Flynn. There's all kinds of reasons. And then the last category is what I just mentioned. That's the planting of misinfo, actually, in the media. It's what Scooter Libby did with Judith Miller. It's what Leon Panetta did with Catherine Bigelow in the Zero Dark 30 movie. So this is where actually false information is put into the press as if it's a leak or a whistleblowing, but actually it's false information, and it's designed for a really bad agenda. So for instance, in the Zero Dark 30 movie, it's designed to tell the public that torture works, with Scooter Libby leaking to Judith Miller. He was planting false information about uranium tubes. And that's the worst category. I think people really have to be looking out for that right now, especially with this ominous confrontation of Russia that's going on. And the fact is there's not many people, there's just a handful of people, and they've been vilified as, you know, Putin apologists, etc., for trying to ratchet down the tensions with Russia right now. And I think that's what we have to be looking for. These leaks are something in the middle, but I think that there's a lot of political reasons, and I think it's power. I think in Washington, D.C. right now, it is really what do you want to call it, a struggle for power between the deep state, between the executive branch, the legislative branch. I don't think our courts are very much involved in it, but I think there's these entities are all kind of vying for power now.
All right, Colleen, that's a good place to pause, and we'll take up the issue of who's really in power here, the executive branch or the deep state, in our next segment. Thanks for joining us for now.